Welcome. It is no accident that you have found your way to the Release the Genie podcast. What would you do with 3 wishes? And what if you discovered that you are in fact that very genie that could grant them? Well, join us now as we discover who our next genie is as we listen in and learn the stories of triumph, inspiration, and passion with some very special guests. And now, without further delay, your host of the Release the Genie podcast, Mr. Paul Rogers.
So good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you're tuning in from. I've just got an amazing guest today. This intro is just going to blow you away. The wonderful Devon Harris. Let me just give you a little rundown of what this guy did. He is one of the founding original members of the Jamaican bobsleigh team. Yes, you heard it there. He was one of the original members. He was captain of that in 1992 and 1998. He's a 3-time Olympian. He is a founding member of the original bobsleigh team, which I've already said. He's an international speaker, keynote. In fact, the guy's run out of countries now on the planet to speak in. He's got his business, which is Keep On Pushing Foundation, and it is Move Past Your Obstacles. He's also been a soldier and a captain in the Jamaican Defense Force. I've had the pleasure of interviewing this wonderful guy before, and we spent most of the time laughing. So he's you buckle up or sit down in your sleigh, because this is going to be a great one. Devon, how you doing, my friend?
Hey, bro, it's good to be here with you, man. Thanks for having me on.
No, it's always a pleasure. And I said we met on another platform, and the first thing you said to me, you said, Devon. Yeah, like in England, Devon. And
it's a Devonshire, man.
Devonshire.
Whenever I meet someone from the UK, of course, American friends, that's where we speak English. Yeah. I usually say that, Devon as in Devonshire.
Mm-hmm. If you're from the Shire, it's okay. So, despite that build-up, tell us a little bit more about yourself, if you can, please.
Yeah, well, you did mention that I'm Jamaican, and I think most people are guessing from the accent that, he's Jamaican. So I grew up in Kingston, a place called Olympic Gardens. And I sometimes jokingly say that's where we raise all our Olympians, but not quite true. Olympic Gardens is a really rough neighborhood. If you've seen those ads on TV where they talk about come to Jamaica and feel all right. Well, they weren't talking about my neighborhood. It's impoverished, it's violent, but that's where I grew up. When I was younger, man, love sports. I love to play, basically, and sports provided a somewhat organized way to kind of channel all of that energy that I had. And so I discovered football, soccer here in America. Did okay in school as well, and by the time I was in high school, I wasn't playing soccer anymore. I was running track, had dreams of competing in the Olympics, the Summer Olympics, that is. When you're in Jamaica, you dream of competing in the Olympics. Pre-1988, you dreamt of the Summer Olympics. I think it may be a little bit different now. They have options. But yeah, Paul, you mentioned I was a soldier. One of the things that definitely kind of kept me focused was this idea that I wanted to become an officer in the Jamaica Defense Force. And after high school, I enlisted, did my basic training in Jamaica, and then I went off to do my officer training at the Royal Military Academy, Sandhurst, which is like the British equivalent of West Point, the school of Winston Churchill, Field Marshal Montgomery, King Hussein of Jordan, Princes Harry and William graduated a number of years ago. And yes, truly, also graduated from Sandhurst. And now I get to hang out with you, man.
Oh, well, to be honest, you're a legend.
I don't know. Am I going up or down?
Yeah. Well, by the end of this, by the end of this podcast, we'll make that decision. Yeah. So, I know that. I mean, what an impressive intro. So, I wonder if you can share with us your sort of one of your aha moments or one of your Release the Genie moments.
Oh, that's a really good question. I mean, I've had some, release the Genie, defining moments. One of them, I can go back to high school and with that actually, because I think it's an important kind of fulcrum, as it were. And I was in the ninth grade, I was in the eighth grade, woodwork class, 3 periods. The first period, start of the first period, and this other kid embarrassed me in the class. He was really fast. I just joined the track team and could like literally run backwards, blindfolded, and still win. And so he was kind of a little full of himself, and he embarrassed the hell out of me. And I did not cry. I bawled. I bawled for the entire 3 periods. And at the end, I didn't even wait until the teacher dismissed the class. At the end of the 3 periods, I just got up, walked out as soon as the bell rang. And a whole group of us usually walk to the bus stop. I walked by myself that day. And I decided that day that I was going to join the track team. I was going to train. I was going to beat all of them. And I did just that. But in the process of doing that, though, Paul, discovered the Olympics, and that kind of started my journey to where now I'm now a 3-time Olympian.
So, what pulled you into bobsleighing? How did that come about?
So I was in the Army. It's 1987. I'm 21 years old, and I just basically accomplished this big dream of being an Army officer. And I'm thinking to myself, so dude, what's up? What are you going to do with the rest of your life, man? Is this it? And I go, oh yeah, the Olympics, right? Because I kind of felt like I was being a little waster. So it's kind of amazing as I think back at it at 21, I just made it out of the hood to being an Army officer. I'm like, dude, you're not doing anything with your life. Come on. So the Olympics are coming up in 1988. Seoul, Korea, right? The Summer Olympics. Remember that. I dreamt about going to the Summer Olympics. Run about that time, though, 2 Americans came up with the idea to start a bobsled team in Jamaica. And they couldn't find the guys on a summer team to do it. So they came to the Army looking for athletes. And, I heard about it, thought it was a ridiculous idea. I remember saying nobody could ever get me to go on one of those things. But then I ran this cross-country race because I was training, hoping to get fit enough to qualify for Seoul, Korea. And I go run this cross-country race. I guess I surprised a lot of people that didn't know I was an athlete. And my colonel called me over one day and told me I was going to go for the bobsled team trials. I don't believe he expected me to make the team. There's a philosophy in the Army that says officers must always participate. He had a bunch of enlisted men going to the team trials, so he thought he'd send his young, fit officer. But in that moment, in the moment that he told me I was going to the team trials, I didn't know how I was going to do it. I just knew somehow I had to make the team.
Wow. I mean, that is amazing. I love the journey, man. That's incredible. So, I mean, this is sort of, it goes on from that. So what would you say is one of your favorite inspirational quotes or mantras?
So it's kind of interesting. I discovered, motivational books, self-help books when I started bobsledding, interestingly enough. And I would read, I think the first one I read was something about succeeding with a positive mental attitude with W. Clement Stone and Napoleon Hill. And I'm not sure if it's from that book, but one of the earlier quotes that I read and kind of stayed with me is that whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. That has just kind of stayed with me since then.
I mean, a beautiful thing. And I think you're right. I think that's a Napoleon Hill quote. So, amazing. Now, I remember this from my first chat, so I'm just going to bring it up. That, of course, you're from Jamaica. and you don't have the trademark dreads. And I know your dad had a couple of rules for you on that one. So if you would like to share that little story with us.
Yeah, there were well, a complicated family situation, but at home were 4 boys, and my dad was getting ready to move to the U.S. And he says, "Listen, there are 2 things you must not do. If you do them, you will not be my son anymore. Any of you, right? Don't have dreads. Don't wear earrings. See, no dreads, no earrings. Still his son, I think."
Dreads, earring. So
yeah, you're not his son. But what's kind of funny is that, like, whenever we have family gathering, because I do have a brother now who have dreads, and another one who wear earring. I'm like, "Daddy, see, they didn't listen. They didn't listen." I'm the oldest one. I'm still telling on them, man.
So I laughed so hard on when you first told it. I had to bring that one up again. So tell us, what are you working on right now? What's sort of cooking in your kitchen at the moment?
It's COVID, man. Like everybody else, we're switching stoves or switching burners on the stove, perhaps. So, I'm still speaking, but not as much. I'm doing virtual events now as opposed to jumping on stage, which is always exciting. And I'm spending more time now, investing a lot of time in my podcast. I just did an interview earlier, and when we're done here, I'm going to interview someone else as a kind of a nice busy day. I'm spending my day talking, right? Doing interviews. And then, work still trying to get some work done with my foundation as well. You mentioned that they keep on pushing foundation. I'm excited because we just finished building what we call a sick bay at my old elementary school in Jamaica. And that's really just a little building where the guidance counselor will have an office, and then there's a room there for kids who aren't feeling so well during the day. They'll have a place to rest, and of course the office is there for the guidance counselor to kind of speak to and guide and help some of the more emotionally challenged ones.
I know you have a massive compassion for your neighborhood, and you actually went back there, I believe, when you were an officer. And you pay that forward, that your story of getting out. I mean, I think there was somebody you came across who you sort of had a big impact on.
Yeah, well, look, my work in the Army in Jamaica took me to many neighborhoods like mine, and it also took me to my neighborhoods, because you kind of have to go where the bad boys are. And I kind of enjoy that part of the job. I like going to go find those bad boys. But I also knew that the vast majority of people in neighborhoods like mine, and in the cities across the world, right? They tend to have that stigma. Yeah, everybody's bad, and it's not true. I know that because I grew up in a neighborhood like that. So one of the things I always did when I came across like a young boy that's like the one thing I know I could probably use to encourage him is to go join. You must join the army when you grow older, okay? And this is just a way of trying to encourage and inspire them to reach beyond their current circumstances.
It gives them hope, to something to look to, actually aspire to.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, if you are in a situation where there's a person who is in a position that you kind of look up to, and he's encouraging you to come and join him, I think that is saying, hey, you know what, he maybe sees something in me, maybe I'm special, or maybe it's possible. And that's the thing. You want to give people hope. It's, I always say that hope is a lifeblood of possibility.
No, amazing. And, it's very clear how much you give back in your keynotes and everything else. So that's wonderful. Well, now we move to a real fun part of the show, in that I asked my powerful Olympian Genie for my 3 wishes. So are you ready there?
Oh, all right. Let's. Well, I know what my first wish is going to be already.
So, number one, what is the best advice you ever received in your life?
Oh, I thought you were going to ask what my first wish was. I was going to
Well,
wish.
tell me
I
your
was going to
first
wish
wish
for
first.
3 more wishes.
I know
So I'll
you.
have 4.
Well, let's go with yours first because it's going to be fun.
Okay, all right.
What's your first wish?
Well, no. So the best, the best advice I've ever given in my life, man. You know, I tell you this. That what jumps out to me, believe it or not, Paul, is when I was getting ready to go to Sandhurst. He was a captain at the time. He's like in my mind, he was the last person I saw before I left. It probably isn't so, but that's what I remember. And he calls me over, and I'm a young plebe, an officer cadet, not nobody special yet. And he's like, Captain. And he calls me over, and he was really gruff, but he was giving me, that's how they operate, right? And he goes, hey, make sure you have a good sense of humor. You hear me? Have a good sense of humor. Dude, that bit of advice served me really well at Sandhurst. It did. Because there are many times when, look, you're different. You're an overseas student. You're not always fitting in, or being seen as equal to is perhaps the more accurate way to see it. And to be honest, it wasn't most of the times had nothing to do with me, but how I saw other overseas students being treated. And yeah, just having a good sense of humor served me well. Otherwise, I probably would have resorted to my old getaways and not graduate. So that's the one that jumps out at me right now.
I mean, I totally agree. It also means you don't take yourself too seriously. So when things do come along, you actually can deal with them better on the humor side.
Yeah, I agree with you. I try not look. Am I proud of my accomplishment? Do I have an ego like everybody else? Yes, but I really try not to take myself too seriously, because there's always more work to do, man. And part of my work is finding a way to inspire someone to go do their thing as well. And I think if you get all engrossed into you and who you are and start believing your own press, none of that happens.
Yeah.
So I'm the guy who happy to work hard and to become as good as I can possibly become, but always be mindful that there's a guy off there or a girl off there to the side who might need some help, some encouragement, and doing what I can to provide that for them.
Awesome. And yeah, so true. That moves me on to number 2, which is, what advice would you give your younger self?
I've been asked that a lot, or a bunch, and what comes to mind to me every single time, I haven't come up with a different answer, is, hey, enjoy the ride a little bit more, man. Yeah. Take some time to smell the roses. I think I was intense and focused to a fault, and perhaps that was what was necessary for me to make it through. Perhaps there was no other way to do it but to be just so laser beam focused. But I kind of look back now, and so I draw this analogy. It's almost like I was at one end of a rose garden and I wanted to get to the other end, and I walked straight through, waded my way through amongst all these rose bushes, and I never once paused to take a sniff of the rose. I'm trying to get to the other end, and that's all I want. And again, perhaps that was what was necessary to be able to get out of where I was to where I wanted to be. But if there was a way for me to, pause just momentarily and smell the roses, that would be my advice to my younger self.
And, it's so right that people, they focus on the destination, which there's nothing wrong with that, but they kind of forget, as you said, the journey. And I think trying to balance that's really difficult because, you know, they seem to be polar opposites. One's going and the other one's saying slow down. So, there's a
and you know, there's always a chance that, you know, you stopping to quote unquote smell the roses could totally distract you and derail you. And so, yeah, that's the fine balance, I think, between, you know, just being laser focused and, you know, pausing every now and again to enjoy the scenery, as it were.
Awesome. Well, look, we're going to move on to my third and final wish. And that is, what personal habit do you attribute to your success?
Determination, persistence. You know, I don't know how to quit. I just don't know how to quit, man. I'm just determined. And it might take me a while, you know, working on things that's taking way too long, but you know, I guess I keep on pushing.
I was just about to say that's exactly your strap line of keep on pushing, to help people push through their obstacles. So that's very much ingrained in you. That is kind of you to a T there. So go on, tell me one of your wishes then. Now you started teasing me with that. So if you had a wish, what would that be?
And I could have hair that looks like yours, man.
Well, then your father's going to be
and not be disowned by my dad.
I was going to say, you know, you're running a dangerous line on that one.
Hey, a guy can dream, can't he?
I'll send you some, then you can do it for like special occasions.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
See, compromise and everything.
Yeah. Oh, good.
Awesome. Well, look, is there a book or something which, you know, really has resonated with you on your journey, which you could share with the listeners?
You know, so I spoke about the fact that when I started reading, you know, self-help books, when I just started bobsledding, and so I kind of read some of the classics, you know, Success Through a Positive Mental Attitude with Stones and Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. Mm-hmm. And more recently, you know, reading books like 7 Habits of Highly Effective People with Stephen Covey, Wishes Fulfilled by Wayne Dyer. Those are the kinds of things that, you know, the Jack Canfield books as well, The Power of Focus in particular. Yeah.
You're hanging out with the big boys there, really, aren't you?
I'm just trying to, you know, raise my game, man. And I know that there are things that I don't know, and I'm trying to figure out what those are so I can take them on. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, look, where can we get hold of you? Because we're going to want to know where people can reach out to get you.
Yeah, thank you for asking that. So, of course, my website is easy. It's devonharris.com, www.devonharris.com. My Twitter, Instagram handle, easy to, at keeponpushing88, at keeponpushing88. I'm on Facebook, Keep On Pushing with Devon Harris. Or if you'll see the guy in the Jamaican bobsled uniform, that would be me. LinkedIn, likewise, I'm on LinkedIn.
Awesome. Well, look, thank you so much. I mean, your journey has been a real rags to riches type story and inspiring, and a celebrity as well on the way through. So I being, you know, growing up with that film and that whole feel good thing is very powerful. And so thank you for all you do at the moment and all you continue to do. So if you don't see this guy, just tune into any of his stuff and his new podcast, which is going to be really fun to watch.
Indeed. Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on, man. Yep. The podcast, I didn't mention that, but yep, on YouTube, Keep On Pushing Always. Come check us out. Give us a like, subscribe.
You heard it here from the man himself. So thank you very much, Devon, for being today's Genie. And to all the listeners, I hope you've been inspired and moved in equal measure. So I'd like you to go out today, and I'd like you to release your genie. Tune in next time. Thank you very much for watching. Bye-bye, and bye-bye, Devon.
Thanks for having me, man. Bye.
It's a pleasure.
Well, that's a wrap. You have been listening to yet another episode of the Release the Genie podcast with host Paul Rogers. Be sure to follow Paul on the LinkedIn platform and learn more of Paul's resources at www.takeactionacademy.ca. And until next time, as always, be mindful and be sure to release your genie. Thanks for listening.